My name is Gil Robertson, the president of the African American Film Critics Association, and we'd like to welcome you two brothers to an AAFCA Roundtable. We've, of course, been watching you for quite some time, and I think for most of us, I think for everyone, the work that you both did in Hamilton was certainly a game changer in many respects. And so we certainly are glad to see the progression and the growth and the expansion of your talents. Today we're going to talk about Central Park, the Apple TV Plus series that is currently airing. And a few of our members are probably also going to touch on Hamilton as well. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce everyone. We have Katia Woods in Philadelphia. We have Reggie Pounder in Chicago. Thomasina Farr in Philly.
Wow.
Rebecca Ford in Chicago. And Al McGee in South Florida.
Hello,
and Rhonda
hello,
Penrice, of course, in Atlanta. You guys, let's do this.
Hey, my name is Al McGee with Your Entertainment Ticket. This is to both you guys, Liz and David. Also, welcome, and I really enjoy your talents. Well, Central Park, I watched about 3 episodes. First of all, Leslie, now you're working with Josh Gad, and you all been knowing each other for a while. Did that interest you to work with? And David, now you working on that show too. What really interests you to work on this show, Central Park?
Yeah, I've known Josh, as you said, for a long time, about 20 years. Josh and I met at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, and so it's really a wonderful thing, the longer you're blessed, to live, to be here, to see people to see people bring their standard to bear, to see people bring their full, the talent to the forefront. Josh was always a brilliant kid. When I met Josh at 18 years old, he was a brilliant kid, and now he's a brilliant man, a brilliant creator. So I've been working on his weird little projects for 20 years. This is the first one he's ever paid me for, though, so I'm grateful for that. But I always know that nobody on the planet, unfortunately, makes me laugh like Josh. It's like a superpower that he has over me. So, like, I know whenever I sign up to be in a room with Josh, whether it's to hang out or to work on something, that I'm going to laugh. And that's a special thing.
Yeah, it sounds like everybody on this project was someone in Josh's Rolodex who he called, and all of us pretty much had the same reaction. Why wouldn't I do something if Josh Gad wants me to do it? It's going to be a good time. I also, I don't know, the more I learn about this business, the more I realize that, like, the people you are spending your time creating with is kind of the most important thing. The project is actually secondary in a lot of ways. And sometimes if really the right, wonderful, beautiful thing comes along, then the project can take the driver's seat. But other than that, you're just making stuff, and you have no control over whether it hits, and you have no control over the final outcome of it, particularly as an actor, or even as a writer. Whatever part you play, you're a relatively small part in a relatively large machine on anything. And so, but what you can control is who you hang out with. You're going to spend time with these people regardless, even if we're remote. Like I'm on a Zoom link up voiceover session every other day with Central Park, working on season 2 now, and I laugh the whole time. Like Leslie said, it is always fun. It's always funny. I've also worked with Lauren Bashard a bunch on some of his other shows, and I love that dude because he's also super funny and makes it really easy to work. It's what you have to do is laid right out in front of you. The sessions are quick. They do as many takes as you want, but not more than they need, and it's always a good time. So the working environment tends to take take the driver's seat for me a lot these days.
Thank you very much.
Hi guys, this is Reggie Ponder, the Real Critic out of Chicago. I have a two-part question. One for both of you guys is so my daughter does animation, and she watches so much animation that I had to watch it whether I didn't want to watch you guys or not. My question is, was there something strategic, not just about who you're working with, but was there something strategic about making the decision to do animation, that to round out something, to do something there? And then my second question that I want to kind of throw in there is that, do you think your prior projects, particularly Leslie, your book, and David, Blind Spotting, do you think that those projects have a different meaning in today's environment?
Well, I'm always trying to, Black people need to be everywhere. We definitely need to be everywhere. There's always a need for, I'm raising this little brilliant, beautiful Black girl in my house, and I'm always looking for, and she likes movies like a lot of kids, and it's hard. She likes movies, she likes entertainment, she likes media, and finding entertainment that is a mirror for her, finding things that that allow her to be the center of her own narrative, allow her to be the star of the show, allow her voice to be the loudest, is really challenging still, even in 2020. So yeah, when, there's a need for all spaces all the time, for more Black representation. So yeah, animation is no different. So yeah, that was of course attractive to me to get to lead a show. I didn't know who else would really be a part of it, but I knew that I'd be the dad, and so that I'd get to in some way, in some way be a Black voice in animation. So that was definitely a part of it for me, part of the decision.
Yeah, I think anybody who is, if you're doing a career strategy in Hollywood, probably like voice work should be part of your strategy. It doesn't take much from you, and the returns are potentially very, very high. So just like from a strictly nuts and bolts, like making money perspective, you know what I'm saying? You can make a lot of money for very little work. In some cases. For me, I'm obsessed with anime. I love cartoons. I always wanted to be a cartoon. Now I am several cartoons. So it worked out well for me. I totally agree with Leslie about representation in spaces. I think I didn't know really who I was going to play when I said yes to this, but I think like it's not unimportant that I'm getting to voice like a 70-plus-year-old white woman. I think that's that says something. I don't even know what it says, but that says something. You know what I'm saying? And I think the
For sure it does. Even the Simpsons. How many seasons of Simpsons have we watched? Where there's like a brilliant show where the people of color were not voiced by the people that they were playing. You know what I mean? Or Family Guy's the same way. Cleveland. You know what I mean? So I think it does say something.
Yeah. And I think there's room in the voice world because the voice is really the thing, right? And because and I think there's a big push for culturally specific casting in animation, and I think there's also an equally big push for colorblind casting or for voice specific casting. And I think both of those things can happen at the same time, but I think the representation matters. Black folks have to be in the room. And so I think it's interesting. And I don't know, I think the particular way that Central Park is cast brings up a lot of questions, but it's trying something, and that's what I really appreciated. And that's what I've always appreciated about Josh and about Lauren, is that they are always trying something. And so, yeah, that was important to me. And in terms of how like blind spotting hits different. I don't know. It hits the same to me as when we started writing it in 2009. Like that, the instigating incident for blind spotting was Oscar Grant's murder. The same murder happened a few weeks ago, and everybody felt mad in the same way, and everybody burnt shit down in the same way. And I'm a little bit pessimistic about it, but I like that the conversation is continuing slightly longer than I saw it continue back then. And the way I have tried to be useful is about figuring out ways to continue that conversation once the anger dies down. And so we'll see, both like behind the scenes in my work life and then the few public facing things I do, which I'm cutting down on these days. But I think, yeah, just trying to figure out ways to keep that conversation going. But that's the frustrating part about the resurgence of viewership of blind spotting to me, is the fact that the anger and unsafety that I feel is exactly the same today as it was in 2009.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name's Thomasina out of Philly. Mr. Odom, I saw you give the wave, Team Philly right there. I'm loving you both in the show. I'm hooked. They hooked me with the theme song when they mentioned that Central Park used to be that African-American village that we don't talk about. I'm like, sold, I'm in. And I love the music. How much of the show was recorded in isolation or with cast members? And did you have any leeway to ad-lib anything?
It's pretty much all recorded in isolation because Josh also lives in this neighborhood. Yeah, every now and again, Josh and I, our schedules will link up. And so we'll get to, and he's also, he's a creator on the show. So sometimes Josh will be in the studio and I'll get to read stuff with Josh or record with Josh. But other than that, it's all isolation. I met Catherine Hahn on an airplane, at the top of this year after we'd recorded most of the shows. We'd never even met before. So that's why, they feel so, they feel so lucky when there is chemistry and there are things that are working in animation, because, we didn't have chemistry reads and things like that. So when things like that show up in the show, they're very excited, and it also takes a while in animation. A lot of the animated shows, if you're an animation person like I am, a lot of these shows, long running shows, you go back to season 1 and season 2 and they're a mess, they're, especially when you get into season 14, 15. I mean, when they really know the actors and the family chemistry. So it takes a while because animation is so disjointed. I really think it takes a little bit longer for those shows to come together in the way that we get so used to them, So I hope that Central Park is given the time. I hope that there's space for that in today's, the way media moves today, that Apple sticks with Central Park, because as good as it is now, I think it'll only get better as that family really gets to know each other. That's just a part of the creative process with animation. It takes a long time.
I'll just co-sign everything you said. And like the season 2 stuff I've been recording lately, I am so much happier with than anything I've seen thus far in season 1. Just the choices. I just understand Helen better, and I understand how she fits into the modes of storytelling better. So it's yeah, I agree that the animation takes time to really come together. But if you give it that, it started out pretty high, so hopefully like we'll get to keep having time. Also, like, I'm just gonna say, I say it all the time, but I didn't know that Leslie could do this. And I've known that dude pretty well. I've known him for a while, and I've seen like a lot of his superpowers. He's one of my favorite animated voices of all time. Like every time I watch an episode of this show, I am just so struck by how like the range of like voiciness that character has. It is so impressive. So anyway.
Thank you both. I appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Ford. I'm in Chicago. Thomasina, you asked a question that I was going to ask, but great, I can move on to like a different one. One is two-part question is, first of all, I feel like Central Park is like such a confection. Like, where that you just want to, you know, you want more and more and more of it. Why didn't you guys drop more shows at the same time? I could have just like sat there, you know, all day, several days, instead of waiting a week. And then the next part of my question is, hey, what's up next for you guys? But
we don't have anything to do with the release schedule.
well,
there are
I'm
also
happy
only so
about
many
it.
episodes.
I want it all at once.
I hear you. I think it's interesting. I mean, I do think it's an interesting world where everyone's trying to figure out what the market will bear in terms of how people watch things, right? And we used to all be really accustomed to waiting a week to watch the next thing, and now we're not anymore. But there's an interesting push in some spaces that I've noticed to return back to that, because you don't have to produce quite as much content. And the other thing about animation is it is dummy expensive. Animating these things is not cheap. So like, I think sometimes people think that cartoons are cheaper. They are not. And so there aren't that many episodes that exist. So if we were to drop them all at once, it would just, and it takes a long time. So if you drop 10 episodes of an animated series at once, you're going to be waiting 2 years for the next series, right? So at least this buys them some time. So I understand it, but I also had nothing to do with it. I don't know why they did that.
And the other one was, what are you working on next, Dee?
Yeah. What, so you know, Good Lord Bird is coming up for you, Davi, but for you, Leslie and Davi, what's happening?
Yeah, we're Raph and I are writing a blind spotting series. So we're like in the writer's room for that, which is fire. It's all about Ashley. It's Jasmine's story. It's a show for Jasmine. So that's the most exciting part of it. Yeah, what else? Writing a bunch of things I can't talk about, and making it. Actually, there's a new clipping album coming out in the fall, assuming we get all our artwork turned in on time, which is that's the big hype this week. Yeah, lots of music, lots of writing, all of the quarantine safe things to do. What's going on with me?
I have probably the two movies that are the Sopranos prequel. Of course, David Chase wrote a movie about young Tony, and I actually had that. You know, when I got the audition for the movie, you know, I don't know if you guys know this, but you know, sometimes with the real secretive projects, they don't send you a script. They barely send you a character breakdown. They don't send you, you don't know, you barely know what you're auditioning for. You're making choices based on what's on the page. You just, okay, I'm gonna, you know, have some imagination and throw myself into it. So I didn't really even totally know what I was auditioning for, but I liked the material. The material was, you know, it made me curious. And so I go through the audition process, and it happened very, very quickly. I got hired for the film, and I shot it. They sent me a script finally. I really liked the arc of the character, but I didn't have any time to watch The Sopranos before we started shooting. I saw a few episodes, but really I was just, you know, the way, you know, Hamilton really allowed me to make good on so much of my training at Carnegie, which is really, you know, teaches you to respect the writer and respect the written word, and how to, you know, how to serve, you know, the work that you're working on. I'm going to make a point in a second. But so in this way, you know, when you get a script by David Chase, it's, you know, I'm glad that I had gone through the Hamilton process, you know, before getting a David Chase script. But in quarantine now, I've gotten to catch up on Sopranos. So last week, I finally finished all 6 seasons of The Sopranos, and that journey, you know, that thing. So it's the Sopranos prequel. I'm very excited about. I'm excited to see it now that I've seen the series. I'm excited to see what they've made from that. And I also have the Regina King's feature directorial debut, One Night in Miami, that was produced by the same people that produced Blind Spotting. Keith and Jess were the lead producers on David's movie, and they're the lead producers on One Night in Miami, based on Kemp Powers' brilliant script that he'd written for the theater, about young Cassius Clay when he wins his first heavyweight championship bout with Sonny Liston that nobody expected him to win in Miami. You know, there's no victory party planned for him in that town because nobody expected him to win. He was the only one that expected him to win. So he spends the evening in a motel room with his closest friends. They just happen to be Malcolm X, Jim Brown, and Sam Cooke. And I play Sam Cooke in the film.
Wow.
And they keep promising to send me clips of that, but I ain't seen but that one still that they released, and I'm already juiced about it. Ken Powers reminded me about Soul coming out for Pixar too. That's because he wrote that as well. So yeah, they say November in theaters, which sounds like a lie, but I don't know.
Who do you play in that?
I'm like it's funny that they keep saying my name associated with it, because I'm playing like a dude in a barbershop. I'm like barely in it, but I did have the sort of good fortune to be part of their like cultural council for that film, which is a really interesting thing that Pixar has been doing for the last few of their movies, where they sort of invite community members, particularly on something like Soul or something like Coco, that are culturally specific films that they're making, where they are assume they might have blind spots because like they haven't managed to hire an incredibly diverse company yet. And one of the ways that they look to make up for that is by having culturally specific people come in and sort of comment on the film in process. So I got to see like early storyboards of this all strung together and sit with a bunch of people arguing about hilarious things, whether Black people wear belts and shit, like like really, but also it's kind of an amazing process of in terms of like how they take the time and how much input they are willing to get on all of their scripts, and how hard the note sessions I sat in for that film were some of the most vicious, just chopping away, like mean note sessions I have ever sat in before in my life. And you realize that's why everything is so good. That's why everything they put out is so good, because they don't pull any punches. They're not worried about anybody's feelings. Everybody in there is about trying to make the thing as good as possible. And they work very, very hard. So it was amazing to be around. It also made me realize I'm never writing a film for Pixar. My skin is not that thick.
Hey guys. Well, you guys have answered two of the questions I was going to ask, but one of the biggest ones I was going to talk about is how, after Hamilton, how did you manage the workflow? Like you've been scrapping, for a long time, and then all of a sudden it's like a floodgate of projects, I imagine. And how did you manage that workflow?
Still figuring that out. It's a lot. I think you spend a lot of your early career like saying yes because you have to, and then all of a sudden you have the luxury of choice. But that becomes a different beast also, and you have to. I am still figuring out where my priorities lie and how to change my life when those priorities change. And for all of the madness that came along with COVID, the slowdown was really necessary for me. It would have had to happen for me one way or another, I think. And so I think that it's been a period of reassessing for me, and just about where you spend your time and why you spend your time. And then as your presence becomes more public, the things that you say yes to begin to matter just by virtue of you saying yes to them. That, because now in a world of things I could say yes to, I chose this one at the expense of all of these other things. So what am I bigging up in that sense? Like what does that say about me now that I have choice, right? Before, you said yes because you needed the check. That was obvious. Like, you know what I'm saying? And there's a lot less pressure in that in certain ways. And now, it's requiring me to be a lot more investigative about who is attached to the projects and where the, following the money when I can, and like, you know, just it is stressful in some ways, but it's also good and also necessary. And also I'm learning how to say no better. So that's good.
Yeah, that was super, super well said. How I managed, you know, was certainly not well at the beginning, you know, at the beginning of it, especially. David's absolutely right. Coming off the stage, I left that show at exactly the year mark, which is not, it's all of us left pretty quickly, you know, which is not super common on Broadway. You know, usually if you're in a hit show, because it takes, you know, hit show is a miracle. You're in a hit show and you win a shiny thing, you win a trophy, you know, you a lot of people stay another year or two. You know, that is really not uncommon on Broadway to see somebody, especially if they've won an award, to see somebody stay for 2 or 3 years. But Hamilton, you know, I left at a year. David left only a couple months. I mean, I think maybe a month or two after that, maybe weeks. Yeah, I mean, like pretty soon after that, which, because what I knew was like, I mean, anybody in the world that's going to take my call, you know, they're going to take it right now. You know, right now is the time for me to capitalize on this incredible heat. You know, the fact that this show is a part of the conversation. When you talk about the industry, you know, and makers of things, they'd all seen the show 2 or 3 times. You know, it was really nobody. You know, Steven Spielberg was here, and Oprah was here, and Jay-Z and Beyonce were here. Like now's the time. Let me, you know, if I ever want to make something with Beyonce, you know, now's the time for me to call it. I should have made that call, but yeah. So that first year, I remember leaving. You know, coming off the stage, I was gone. I was away from home way more than I was home, you know. And so then I had you know, I'm married, you know, and I had that dealing with my partner. You know, my wife is like, there were times when she was like, I just didn't know that this is what we were signing up for. You know, I was talking to Tommy this morning, the director of the show, Thomas Kail, the director of Hamilton. And, you know, even the movie being out, it's like, it's so interesting because I didn't sign up to be a part of a Hamilton movie. I didn't sign up to be part of a Hamilton Broadway show even. You know, we signed up to be I signed up to be a part of a reading of a really cool thing that I believed in. And then I signed up eventually to be a part of an off-Broadway show. It's turned into all these things. And so my wife was like, I just, you know, I didn't know that when you signed up to do a part of that reading, that meant in like 3 years, I wouldn't see you for weeks at a time. I didn't know
that part.
You know what I mean? I just didn't know that like I'd be like home pregnant, you know, like, and you wouldn't be here for like, you know, she's like sending me pictures of her belly growing and stuff. She's like, I had to figure out how to take my own pictures. Like as my belly was growing and like the baby's moving for the first time and you're not here. I just didn't know that that's what was going to happen from that off-Broadway show. So yeah, so not well at first, but like as David said, you learn, you do better, you make different choices from year to year, because it also takes time for those choices. Once you know, it's okay, this is how we're going to do it this year. And then you know, by November, you figure out, okay, we got to make some choices for the next year. So it's been, I don't know, 4 years or something like that since the show. It's much better. I have a much better handle on it now. You have to be really good about making those choices. David said it really well, because if you're not careful, you will find yourself living somebody else's dream real quick. Because there's a lot of people in the absence of you using your voice and you saying the things that you want to do. There's a lot of people that'll make those decisions for you and go, perfect. Oh, you don't know what to do? Great. So we're going to put you here. We're going to put you here, and you're going to do that. And, you know, we made you a star. You know, it's like, so before you know it, you can find yourself, you know, in somebody else's fantasy about what you should do with this, with the opportunities that you've been given. So it's been really, really getting clear on those things first. What are the things that I want? What is it that I want? Because you can have anything you want. You know, you want to be famous, or you want some money, or you want to be home, or you want to, what do you want to do? You know, you take a second to like get quiet and figure out what those things are, and then you can move your feet and try to achieve them.
So you guys are prepared for the second wave, because a whole nother wave is coming. You know this, right?
Just learning every day. But I you know, if you can't tell, I look up to this brother a lot. And my last outing before, this is day 100 of my personal quarantine, right? Me and my partner been here. We have a board downstairs. We have been here for 100 days today. The last thing I did out in the world before our quarantine started was go see Leslie's show in LA. That was my last outing. And Leslie put a lot of things on hold to make an album, to make an incredible album. And I went and saw him up on that stage, and afterwards told him, like, I haven't seen you that happy. Maybe ever. That was the most joy I have ever seen radiating from that dude. And it's because he took the time to do the thing that mattered most to him and do it impeccably. To not do it halfway, but to make the album he had been trying to make. And I'd listen to him talk about trying to make it, and work with all the writers he wanted to work with, take time with the production, sit in there and listen to the mixes. He was so involved in them, watching him perform that stuff, watching Nicolette come out on stage and rock with him and all of this stuff. It was just in Los Angeles, and watching the audience be just crazy for it. It was like one of my favorite moments of my life. And to watch his songs hit as hard as the Hamilton covers, you know what I'm saying? To see as many people know all the words to his own music as knew the words to The Room Where It Happens. Like that to me was like,
you know, what I'm doing on stage at the El Rey is trying to, you know, we could do this all day, y'all, but what I'm doing on stage at the El Rey is trying to come as close as I can to Nicolette, and I were in London. We went to see Clipping in London, you know what I mean? Like, which maybe it doesn't mean a lot to anybody, but you know, for as a musician, to see somebody to see your friend having an impact around the world. Like, we were in London, and David is up there with his band with a sold out show across the sea. Like, you know what I mean? It's crazy. And he's up there with his shirt off, like, you know, you know, in like a darkened club with video, you know, with fucking a video playing over his body, and like rocking a sold out crowd in London. So the thing that I'm keeping my shirt on, but the thing that I'm trying to do at the El Rey is be as magnificent as I saw my friend, you know, in London. That's the incredible thing about him. This isn't a roundtable about Hamilton, but the incredible, my most favorite part of that whole process was, you know, that I felt like I earned a spot on a championship team, that I earned a spot, you know, with this all-star company, all-star, you know, and you can see when I watch the film, one of the things I'm most proud of, I really think you can see that generosity. You can see that love. This is not people on stage competing with one another. This is not people on stage fighting for any kind of limelight. These are people that are, when it's your time to shine, I'm going to lift you up. And Jesus Christ, when it's my time to shine, please lift me up. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it is people giving and taking, you know. It's a really special thing. So thank you, Dee. I appreciate you. Love you, man.
Hey guys, Katya here in Philadelphia. Leslie, you know, we claim you and we love you and adore you. New York, back off. I will say that I hope the two of you know that, like, I'm a huge history buff. In Hamilton, my daughter for the first time was like, can we go to Independence Hall? And I'm like, yes, let's book it. Let's do the whole thing. And one thing I do like about us here in Philadelphia, we do a good job of incorporating not just the white history, but showing what life was like for different Black people in the 1700s. So I do want you to know, although you did take a lot of time from your family, there are a lot of kids that weren't interested in American history that said, you know what, this makes me care because of people that look like us. Now, I love Central Park. And Owen is just, I feel like a lot of the characters on the show are, you know, they just are, their spirit is so much there. And with Owen, he loves the park so much. And not everybody loves it like him. And David, when I heard your voice as Helen, I just started screaming, laughing out loud, because I love the fact, number one, that you sign up to play a woman, and number two, Helen's main goal is to survive her employer. Let's keep it real. She's basically like, I just need to hang in there so I can get the money. Talk a little bit about, yeah, you know, she literally said it. Like, oh, so you got the money to the other lady, and she's like, oh, I'm hanging in there, right? But talk a little bit of what it's like to play characters that are, well, Helen, we know what Helen's about, but Owen is, you know, he's a guy that's very passionate, but not everybody shares his passion. So what was that like to bring yourself into these characters and have fun with it, you know?
I always start with myself, you know, from my acting training. Good acting teachers told me you always start with yourself, you know, to find those pathways to empathy. Start with the truth. So what are all the ways that I'm alike? Let's start there. What are all the ways we're alike? And then we can build a little trust, and I can explore the places that we're not alike. But if I start with empathy, you know, I will try to understand those places. I'll try to understand your, you know, Owen's nerdiness, or his rigidity, or, you know, or Aaron Burr's jealousy, or, you know, like if we start with those, you know, we build a little trust together with the characters. I'm willing to go to the places that aren't as familiar. I'll say, you know, I hope that there's a space for even more of the political on this show. You know, there's still just the fact that having a Black lead of a animated series, that is political in and of itself. You know, having it be an interracial couple and interracial children, having a Black man voice this 70-year-old woman. So there are political statements being made, you know, already. But I do look forward to the way I told Josh, and, you know, I think, you know, eventually, you know, we can dip our toe in the water of Owen, you know, going to tell one of the, you know, woman in Central Park that she should leash her dog, and her calling the cops on Owen. And, you know, I think we could, you know, I think we should, you know, we should deal with what's happening in life in all the ways. You know, you can certainly have a Jordan Peele horror movie about that, but Central Park can tell those stories, you know, with this, with humor and with levity, you know, and stuff too. So I'd love to see that, because I saw a lot in Christian, that was his name, Christian Cooper, the bird watcher in the park, who's telling this woman to leash her dog, you know, and there's this great interview with Christian when he's like, he can barely do the interview. He's doing an interview about what happened to him in the park, about Amy Cooper. And he can barely do the interview because he's like, do you hear that bird? That is you know, he's like, that's his genuine experience. You know, he's there because he loves the birds. And he was telling her about her dog because he's protective of the birds, and he's protective of the bird watchers. And what that means in America, you know, to have an image of a Black man in those high shorts and those white socks and the binoculars around his neck, you know, with that glasses, you know, what that means to have a new image. It's an image we haven't quite seen before. It's exciting.
And these mixed kids too. As a mixed kid, like that wasn't even ever part of the conversation with you know, when I was a kid. So that, you know, in certain senses, we've come a long way. My mom used to color in all of the children's books she would buy me when I was a kid, because there were no children's books with Black kids in them. So she would take crayons before she gave them to me. She would color in all of the pictures. But you know, I think yeah, watching that dynamic between Leslie and Catherine and having these kids, and there's so much of their journey to be explored too, because they're going to school, and what are the, you know, when are those kids forced to choose sides in school, and what's the, you know, there's so many places this story could go, which is why I think we love working on it.
Thank you. And I do like Helen, even though her morals may be a little off.
I love Helen, and she keeps revealing herself more and more to me. Every new script, she has more intriguing stuff. But yeah, she has been beaten down, and like Bitsy doesn't seem like she's gonna die. That's the really tragic part of it, right? She's just one of those tyrants who are just going to live off their hatred forever. You know, like, she's doing fine. It's so tragic.
Well, you guys, this has been great. We thank you for your time today. And, you know, we're glad that we were able to get this done. And we are certainly looking forward to supporting you and following you throughout the rest of your journey. And we want to wish you this the safety and wellness, you know, in all different ways, spiritually, physically, you know, as we move through this very complicated time. So on behalf of the African American Film Critics Association, thank you again, and you guys have a fabulous day.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you do too, you know, because we criticism is part of the thing that helps legitimize our work. And the way you guys can add context to what we're creating, the way you guys can challenge us and make us do better, you know, is so important. So thank you for what you do. Please keep telling us the truth, in addition to the support. The support is amazing, but please keep telling us the truth. Please pull our coattails. Please let us know how we can do better. Please let us know, you know what I mean? Like, if you see us out there, reach out and pull a coattail, you know what I mean? We appreciate you, and we love you.
Definitely. We hope to see you guys at TV Honors soon, which is going to be in August, where we recognize the best of the best in television.
Great.
All right.
So,
Thank you very much.
have a good day, you guys.
Indeed,
Thank you.